Hello. Today we'll be discussing the book Good to Great, Why Some Companies Make the Leap and Others Don't, by Jim Collins and presented by Rachel Stevens. To walk you through today's presentation, I will begin with an introduction, transition to the book summary, then to a critique, on to my recommendations, and lastly, the conclusion. First, I'd like to tell you who I am and how I could possibly be in a position to talk to you about leadership. To begin with, I'm a stealthy bike thief. I kid. I am the oldest of 6 and a mom of 2 awesome kiddos and a wife to the love of my life. But mainly, I'm a hardworking lady that has spent the last 10 years as a professional juggling it all. I started my professional career as a teacher for at-risk youth and have worked with that particular student population for 10 years. I now serve a national education company as the operations director that provides programs for students in 7 states. I've spent the last year and a half working to obtain my master's in occupational and educational leadership, and today would like to acquaint you with a book that stood out among the rest during my studies. Jim Collins, 2001, authored the book Good to Great, Why Some Companies Make the Leap and Others Don't, as a follow-up to his first critically acclaimed book, Built to Last. Collins led a research team to discover why some organizations transitioned from being a good performing one to a great performer. Some quick facts about the success of this book before we dive into the contents. Good to Great has become a national bestseller, selling more than 3 million hardcover copies since publication. It attained long-running positions on the bestseller list for the New York Times, Wall Street Journal, and Business Week. It's considered a modern classic on management theory and has been translated in 35 languages. It consistently stays on the #1 sales position in multiple areas. Collins offers the readers 9 chapters that take the reader from understanding the difference from good to great and on to how to sustain a great organization. I think that it's important to note before we dig deeper into the text that all of the concepts explained in the book can be translated to almost any situation. Collins, 2001, has provided a framework on how to lead in general. You can take these concepts and apply them to your family, your department at work, your volunteer project, your state political party organization, your group project team in college, or just like the examples in the book, to leading a global organization. I believe that is the beauty of this book. It is easy to comprehend, and it is applicable to anyone who reads it. Collins' Good to Great book was relevant to my choice of studies and so much more. Studying leadership, you hope to one day lead an organization to greatness, to create a sustaining product or service that exceeds people's expectations. After reading about leadership theories and studying the dynamics of groups and the impacts of actions on others, I was starting to question how I was going to apply all of these concepts to my career. I was handed a copy of this book by my current employer, who wanted me to use it for something at work. But as I began thumbing through the pages, I began to notice answers to questions I had been asking myself as I worked course to course in our graduate program. How can you actually be a successful, authentic leader? Can transformational leadership approach actually work? If I am a servant leader, how will my subordinates respect me? As a leader, you have the opportunity to directly and positively influence the success of not just your organization, but also the people that work for you. One of the hallmarks of a successful leader is that they are genuinely concerned about their people's personal growth and success. This is an important factor for me personally as a leader, and I am sure for many of you watching today. Collins completely sold me on the book when he said, when what you are deeply passionate about, what you can be best in the world at, and what drives your economic engine all come together, not only does your work move toward greatness, but so does your life. For in the end, it is impossible to have a great life unless it is a meaningful life. And it is very difficult to have a meaningful life without meaningful work. This book was derived from a completed 5-year research project to determine what it takes to change a good company to a great one. Collins and his team of researchers systematically reviewed a list of 1,435 established companies to find every extraordinary case that made a leap from average results to great results. Collins defines an organization as great according to the number of metrics that included financial performance that exceeded the market average several times over a sustained period of time. Specifically, after an organization's leap in success, a company had to generate a cumulative stock return that exceeded the general stock market by at least 3 times over 15 years. This leap also had to be independent of industry, meaning that comparable companies that had the same opportunity to grow in success did not achieve it. Using these criteria, Collins and his research team cataloged the business literature, identifying a handful of companies that fulfilled their predetermined criteria for greatness. Then, the defining characteristics that differentiated the great firms from their competitors were quantified and analyzed. In each of these good to great corporate transformations, Collins and team found the same thing. There was no miracle moment. Instead, each of these organizations operated under a pragmatic approach to commit themselves to excellence and developed a framework to keep the company, its leaders, and its employees on track to be an organization that would last a significant amount of time. The comparison companies in Collins' study, firms with virtually identical opportunities during the pivotal years, bought into change myths and quick fixes that failed to make the organization leap from good to great. Collins concluded that greatness is not a function of circumstance. Greatness, it turns out, is largely a matter of conscious choice and discipline. In Good to Great, Collins structures the content and research in a digestible and methodical way, allowing every discovered concept to build upon one another. Collins and his team allow the reader to first understand that success begins with the people at the helm of the ship, and that once those people have been identified, an organization can move forward with its vision. Collins' research addressed 9 major concepts that are outlined by individual chapters, and then provide a summary with key tenets or concepts presented at the end of each. In Good to Great, Collins writes, "A culture of discipline is not just about action. It is about getting disciplined people who engaged in disciplined thought and who then take the disciplined action." He also mentions in one of the earlier chapters of the book, when you have disciplined people, you don't need hierarchy. When you have disciplined thought, you don't need bureaucracy. When you have disciplined action, you don't need excessive controls. When you combine a culture of discipline with an ethics of entrepreneurship, you get a magical alchemy of great performance. The graphic on this slide represents the organization of analyzed outcomes derived from Collins' research for taking a good company to a great one. In Good to Great, Collins focused his first fundamental component chapter on establishing the guidelines for the type of leadership that must be a part of the organization for it to become great. Throughout the book, Collins' Level 5 leader was referenced as being the captain of the ship that must take the helm and guide all of the other steps for an organization to become great. There are multiple moments in the text that comparisons can be found between various leadership roles. One such comparison can be made with Level 5 leaders and authentic leaders. Authentic leaders have deeply held beliefs and non-negotiable values which determine their behavior, especially in relationships with others. Such values are most evident during a crisis when immensely difficult decisions have to be made. Collins' book provides multiple examples of leaders in various scenarios that dissects the leader's actions and crucial moments for their organization. He also provides the top 5 characteristics that are necessary to become a Level 5 leader, many of which exemplify authentic leadership. Shamir and Eliam's 2005 intrapersonal definition of authentic leadership coincides with some of the levels needed to achieve Collins' definition of a Level 5 leader. Shamir and Elam suggest that definition of authentic leadership should be based on the leader's self-concept. This includes his or her self-knowledge, self-concept, clarity, self-concordance, and person role manager, and on the extent to which the leader's self-concept is expressed in his or her behavior. Collins provides clarification of a Level 5 leader by explaining that the individual must possess 4 accomplished levels of leadership before achieving Level 5 status. Collins' Level 2 leaders specifically are described as the contributing team members. At Level 2, the leader will use their knowledge and skills to help the team succeed. They worked effectively, productively, and successfully with other people in the group. For a leader to accomplish this level, they must be an authentic leader. Authentic leadership definition has been further explained by Wolomua, Avalio, Gardner, Worsing, and Peterson in 2008 as a pattern of leader behavior that draws upon the promotes, both positive psychological capacities and a positive ethical climate to foster greater self-awareness and internalized moral perspective, balanced processing of information, and relational transparency on the part of leaders working with followers, fostering positive self-development. The parallels between these definitions is significantly apparent. Collins' Level 2 leader focuses on how the authentic and positive contributions of the leader will take the overall team to success. The Level 5 leadership model from good to great is frequently referenced as really another name for servant leadership. The team chose the term Level 5 leadership over servant leadership in fear that the readers would misinterpret the concept as servitude or weakness. Since the original publishing of this book, many authors point out the similarities between Level 5 and servant leadership, like in Waller, 2012. In researching Good to Great, Collins found that great leaders have humility, and they don't seek success for their own glory. Rather, success is necessary so that the team and organization can thrive. They share credit for their success, and they're the first to accept blame for mistakes. Collins, 2001. Nordhaus, 2016, notes that servant leadership emphasizes that leaders must be attentive to the concerns of their followers, empathize with them, and nurture them. Further, Nordhaus states that servant leaderships are ethical and serve the greater good of the organization, community, and society at large. The parallels between servant leadership and Level 5 leaders are undeniable. Collins' 2001 Good to Great book was an unexpected, eye-opening read for me. I had no expectations going into reading this book, but I can confidently say that this book is worth the read. I was surprised to learn that the secret to creating successful leadership moments to transform a good organization to a great one was that a disciplined leader sets the tone and creates the organizational framework to provide practical, pragmatic steps towards change. There is no miracle moment for these kinds of transformations. I was able to take Nordhaus's transformational leadership theories and apply them simultaneously as the book progressed, documenting the changes that took place in various organizations. Kunert, 1994, noted that people who exhibit transformational leadership characteristics possess a strong sense of values and ideals, and they are highly effective in motivating followers to act in a way that support the greater good rather than their own self-interest. Transformational leaders are commonly recognized as change agents, and this could not be exemplified any better than how Collins provides detailed accounts of organizations transitioning from good to great. Collins fulfilled his declaration of providing key success indicators to walk a leader through establishing the necessary components to achieve a great organization. I found his advice was well researched, applied to many organizational scenarios, and proved to be highly accurate. Collins' breakdown of the Level 5 leader allows for leaders to easily digest the necessary characteristics to be a great leader. I was able to take the lessons learned from Good to Great and apply them to various moments in my own leadership journey, and I'm also able to take the narrative in this text and easily compare it with those of the theories provided by Nordhaus. This text is an invaluable read for anyone wishing to move themselves or their vision forward in a charge for greatness. Thank you all very much for tuning in. This is the conclusion of Good to Great. All references can be found on the following slide.